All right, welcome everybody to today's webinar, where we'll be talking through utilizing B2W Schedule to provide real-time visibility and collaboration between your field and office. To ensure I get through today's content, everybody's going to be muted during the session, but with that said, I do encourage you to ask any questions through the chat feature or questions over the course of this meeting, and I'll look to address them either over the course of the presentation or at the end during our Q&A session. We'll start today with a quick introduction. My name is Mike Morneau. I'm the product manager for B2W Schedule. I've been at the company now for just over 5 years. Prior to joining B2W, I spent 8 years in the horizontal construction industry as a project manager, helping my company manage its construction backlog, as well as its day-to-day scheduling operations. Just a quick overview. During our presentation today, we'll start by doing a brief review of the tools and process B2W is helping to replace. We'll also touch on the intended users of the product. Then we'll dive in and take a look at how the product and how these operations will look between B2W Schedule. At the conclusion, I should have some time to respond to any questions from the session. So let's get started. We'll first start by covering what B2W Schedule provides to your company. First, our software is a place which centralizes and standardizes your data collected around your scheduling operations. Next, we help streamline communication by leveraging notifications and reports that can be shared across your organization. Piggybacking off from that, we help improve visibility by exposing the most important information filtered to those users invested in the completion of these assignments. Finally, with these pieces in place, you can count on increased collaboration across your business, as everybody will be working within the same schedule, looking at the same information, and working towards the same goal with regards to your day-to-day operations. So what are we replacing? So some operations today lean heavily on a collection of loose paper forms, phone calls or texts, disconnected spreadsheets, or a whiteboard on the wall. This can lead to inaccurate data, delayed responses, and incomplete information being passed throughout your business. So who are some of the parties involved in this process? The foreman is out in the field reviewing the work in front of them, evaluating what's needed to execute the task, and reporting against what is taking place. The superintendent is making sure the foreman is working on the appropriate task and ensuring that they have the resources needed to get the work done. The dispatchers, who are working to keep the project properly staffed and resources mobilized to the job site, while the project managers are keeping track of the progress and checking to see if production is being achieved and resource utilization is maximized. So let's take a look how companies would use B2W Schedule out in the field and back in the office. We'll start out in the field where our foreman is out on the job site looking to remove some excess material and backfill a trench with some better material. They'll need a loader to help out with this operation and some materials and trucks to backfill the trench. So here we can see this foreman is out in the field checking out their schedule for today. They're utilizing a custom schedule view built just for this foreman and any assignments associated with them, which might span across multiple projects and locations. So let's follow along as the user utilizes B2W Schedule on their tablet. As you can see here, they're going to start by looking at the production target, which has been set for the 300 cubic yards of excavation. Now, if they're unfamiliar with where the job site is, they can launch a map within the application to see where exactly the job is. They can enable features such as satellite and traffic to see additional information about the location. And since we're using Google Maps, they can even leverage the street view in which they can zoom in and take a closer look at maybe where the material is going to be stockpiled on the job. So by getting a complete picture of what's set out in front of them, they can go in and say that maybe they need for either an employee, equipment, or an entire crew to come help with the operation. So we're following along here as they're going to create a equipment need for their job site. Looks like they're going to need a loader, so they're going to type in and try and find that loader. Just one. They'll adjust the start and end date so they can make sure that they're getting it for the right period of time. You can also see we can include durations, start times, and they can even leave notes as to specifically why they would need that piece of equipment on the job. So as a foreman types in their notes, or of course they could also leverage the text-to-speech on the applicable device, they can save that and then submit it back to the office. So that need can either be associated with their crew, or they can just say that it's needed on the job site and maybe it's operated by somebody else. So back in the job trailer, the superintendent's reviewing the activities on the job site and making sure the needs are being filled and the orders have been submitted. So with that, I'm going to pull up the application here so that we could take a look at what our superintendent might be looking at back in the office. So here I'm within the schedule application, which again is within our operational suite, which also includes track and maintain. But we're going to stay within schedule here, and we're actually going to look at a job listing, which is just the site superintendent's jobs. Just looking at the schedule, they're looking at the time frame in view, which is this week, and immediately they can see that there's something that needs their attention on Wednesday, 6/16. They have that order that was just submitted from the field. So they can either go right to the panels that are built into our view to resolve this unfilled order or need, but they can also drill into the location to see more detail. So again, they're looking at the same assignment that our foreman was just reviewing, the targets that were set. And as I drill in further, I can actually see that need for a loader out on the job site with the notes that they'll need it to remove the piles. So to fill this need, all they can need to do is either launch it from one of the tooltips, or they can open the panel directly from this button up in the upper right-hand corner. So as you can see here, we have that need for the loader. There's also a move that needs to be scheduled, but that's probably not the superintendent's responsibility at this time. So by clicking the loader need, the view, you'll notice changes to show any other loaders that this particular user has permissions to see. So immediately I can see that this first loader here is available starting Tuesday. I can't use this IT loader here because it's also down for maintenance, and the other two are already booked at different plants and quarries at my organization. So through a simple drag and drop, I can drag that down onto that loader to assign that piece of equipment to work with that crew. You may have also noticed here that since this loader isn't going to drive itself to the job site, the system will automatically create a move order to pick up that piece of equipment from its previous assignment. So after Monday on 6/14 at 5:30, and it can be dropped off before this assignment begins at 7:30 on this date. So again, this is probably not the site supervisor's job to assign that. So we'll touch on that later when we review the dispatcher role. A couple other items that the superintendent might be looking at is what equipment's on site. So we can see that this excavator is on site because of a move that was completed. We can also see materials and material orders that are at this location for this particular crew as well. So if they realize that they actually need more or less material for this job, they can come in and edit this material order and change the requirements. So this order in total has spanned several days, but say this day here, we actually need 210 tons instead of 220. Maybe I need less trucks or more trucks, what the spacing might be, as well as what truck types might be required on the particular job site. As you see here, we can also leave some truck notes for the truck dispatcher to review once we assign these. So again, I'll touch on that a little bit later. So once the order's been set and the details have been confirmed, the user can save back out of here. And if everything looks good on their schedule, most likely they'll be all set and they can log out and go back to their day-to-day operations. The next role that we'll take a look at is the dispatcher role. So again, the dispatcher is in the office and they're probably not looking at individual jobs, but maybe all job sites that they're responsible for staffing. So in this case, I'm again within schedule looking at another listing view, but in this configuration, I'm looking at all the job sites that I might need to tend to. So again, I see indicators on these particular jobs that something requires my attention. So clicking here, I can see I have a resource that's in conflict, and clicking on the Dame Road job site, I can see I have a conflict as well as another need that needs to be filled or order to take care of. So by clicking in and again drilling into the job, I can see there's that flagger need that's needed on Friday, 6/18 through Saturday. And within this crew, it looks like there's a conflict, which Avery looks to be booked while they're also on vacation. So a couple things to attend to here from a dispatcher staffing perspective. The first one I think I'll address here is the conflict. So again, I can launch it through the panel, or I can utilize the panel button up in the upper right-hand corner. But in this case, I'm just going to address this single conflict. So I'll click that link. And again, my view changes so that I can see the employee that's in conflict, as well as any other excavator operators that I can utilize to fulfill this assignment. So I'll just simply, again, drag and drop this assignment onto another resource that's available. My view goes back to its original state, and I can see that this employee is now working on that crew, and Avery has been reassigned and taken off so that they can enjoy their vacation. So I can go in as a dispatcher and fill that need through the orders and needs workflow as I might want to. But for this particular dispatcher, I actually have a specific schedule that I utilize to keep track of all my flaggers. So I'll actually skip over to that so I can see all my flaggers as well as that flagger need that needs to be filled. So what I'm looking at here, again, is a filtered list of my employees with the flagger labor type. I also have a feature enabled which allows me to see reported hours that have been submitted through Track. So Aaron's already worked 53 hours this week. Bill has 10, Joel has 56 reported, and Sarah has 22. So looking at Joel's schedule, it looks like he might be going up and above hours if I have him also work Friday and Saturday. But Bill's available, so maybe I'll reassign that to Bill to level out the end of his week. I also still need to assign this assignment here for the Dame Road project. So again, I can assign that need by just dragging and dropping it onto an available employee for that day. Once I have my employees all staffed and assigned, all conflicts resolved and needs filled, then I can go in and actually notify the employees of where they're supposed to work. So by utilizing our notification panel built within the software, I can pick the date I want to notify these employees on. So since today is Wednesday, I'm going to skip over to Wednesday. And immediately it filters out employees that don't need to be notified because they have no new or updated assignments. But say Aaron keeps forgetting their night pants and I want to notify them directly, I can say, well, all employees, and I can even call out just Aaron here in this situation. And I can include a dispatcher comment that just says, bring your PPE. So from here, I'm sending Aaron a notification about their assignment, but as well as any additional comments that I might want to send them through either email or text. So I'll send that off to them, and we'll actually take a look at what that would look like in a minute here after I get through the rest of this dispatcher's workflow. So with the employee assignments all resolved, we're going to change gears here and take a look at a different view. So say they are also trying to keep track of the different crews and where the crews are working. I can have a schedule set up which is broken out by crews and work type. So if I want to see where all my excavation crews are working, instead of just the excavation crew that we reviewed earlier, I also have a subcontractor that's out working on Dame Road as well. And I see these assignments at different locations instead of just location by location. And I can see my reclaiming crew, again, a lot of the same information, we're just changing the way that the user is viewing this information. Lastly, if this particular dispatcher is also responsible for keeping track of equipment and what equipment's working, they can set up an equipment list as well. So in this case, I have a listing of equipment grouped by equipment type. If I expand this out, now I'm just looking at equipment assignments and equipment events related to equipment that I'm in charge of managing. So once again, I can see my reported hours from field logs. So in this case, in B2W Track, I only have 8 hours reported against this piece of equipment. I don't have any assigned to this equipment, even though it's assigned to a particular job site. But I also have 8 hours reported on this paper, even though it's not assigned to be working. So right off the bat, I can kind of figure out that I got to start troubleshooting. Why does this piece of equipment not have any hours reported? Do I got to contact the person that requested it or who's operating it to see why they're not utilizing this piece of equipment or not? Or maybe I just have the wrong piece of equipment assigned and I can just drag it down onto the proper piece of equipment to make sure that's reported. Again, I can see things like equipment events. So in this case, I have a cat that's down for maintenance. Looks like it's getting its screed replaced. And I also have these MTVs down here, which one of them is a rental that's coming off from rent. And I also have a move order to get that piece of equipment, looks like back to Hampton Rental off from the last project that it was on. So again, I could assign the move from here to get that piece of equipment to where it needs to go. But within B2W Schedule, we actually have a dedicated view for managing these equipment moves. So our Move Planner view is now open here. It's a place where you can handle both deliveries and equipment moves. So in this case, I've launched it in a delivery state. So I have a queue here of material orders that need to be delivered. But I'm going to switch over to the equipment moves itself so I can kind of get back to where that shuttle buggy has to be picked up, as well as a loader. So on the left-hand side, again, I have a filtered queue that I can search and expand out to get more information. On the right-hand side, I have a list of my low beds that I can assign these moves to. So I can see Macy is already moving an excavator from Milton to Hooksett. I got Mike's low bed here, which is on Route 93 going to Hooksett for the earth roller. And then Tess is moving some materials here as well. But what we're going to do is, since this is also going to Route 93 exit 17, I'm just going to drag this over and assign it to Mike's low bed. So the system realizes that Mike's already going to Route 93 exit 18. So they've merged his stops so that the driver knows that they're first going to pick up the loader, then drop it off, pick up the roller, and then drop that off and hooks it. You'll notice I have my notification icon here that lets me know that their schedule has been updated and I probably need to send them a notification. I also see that I have 4 hours assigned to this driver. So over the course of these stops, they're working 4 hours. If that doesn't seem correct, I can modify those hours by utilizing kind of our stop time panel here. And when I select Mike's low bed, I can adjust the hours. So I can say, well, they're probably going to be there at 5:30, and then it's going to take a couple hours to get over to exit 18 and a few more hours to drop that thing back off at the Hooksett yard. When I apply that, now I can see that my hours have updated for the day, and the assignments have also been updated as well. So keeping everything in sync. So once my moves have been assigned, so I'm actually going to assign this shuttle buggy up to Macy's to fill out my day here. And you see I got a warning indicator, so I'm going to adjust the stop times here as well. So we'll set that for, let's just say 11 a.m. for demo purposes, and we'll do 13. So 4 hours or 6 hours over 4 stops. So now I have all my low beds assigned, their stop times assigned, so they're working, and I can see I have some notifications to be sent. So again, I'll utilize the notification panel built into my view for Macy's low bed to get an email and a text, as well as Mike's low bed as well. I'll send those notifications off. It lets me know that my notifications have been submitted, and also the system keeps track that Macy and Mike no longer need notifications because they've been received their most recent notifications. Once a day is done, I can either come in and mark these moves as complete, or I can also complete the moves through a panel by selecting the transport crew and then marking them as complete. So the last piece I'll touch on from an orders perspective is the mass haul planner. So if you recall, we had that order that was requested for a common borrow out on the Route 93 exit 18 job. The excavation crew needed some material. So we have, again, a dedicated view, which is geared towards our truck dispatchers who are looking to assign multiple trucks to orders within the system. So again, that same order that was submitted by Ed on his schedule now lands on the Mass Haul Planner page where the truck dispatcher can begin assigning moves to these different orders. So I'm going to keep this pretty high level because we do have another webinar coming up next month that goes into greater detail about how this view is utilized for managing your trucking fleet and sending notifications and managing orders. But I'll just quickly go through on how this particular order would get assigned. So by clicking on the order, I see general information. So what am I moving? Where am I picking it up from? At what time? What time does it need to be on site? We also see that they needed 3 trucks for 10 hours using triaxles. So the left-hand side is information about the order. On the right-hand side, I can see my available trucks in the system. So in this case, it's already filtered down to trucks of the truck type triaxle, but I could pick from a list of subcontractors or even brokers as well. If I can come through here and pick these trucks individually if I want to, but you'll also notice that since this order started earlier this week, I can also just copy trucks that were previously used on this order. So by clicking that link, you'll notice some of the trucks disappeared from the right-hand side are now on my list as already being assigned. I can also adjust the spacing here as well. So if I want them to show up every 30 minutes, I can quickly assign that. I can also reorder them if I need to as well. The last piece I'll touch on is if I want John here to also stick around to pick up the files, I can leave a note that goes specific to this driver. So we have the truck notes from the order, we have driver notes as well, and I can assign those trucks to this order. Once again, we utilize the notification system within the product. So I have a panel that says once I'm done assigning all my trucks, I can send out notifications to those truck drivers that were just scheduled onto that order. So again, a click of the button, I've just sent out multiple texts and emails out to my drivers. And we can take a look at what those notifications look like in our next slide here. So now that our dispatcher has got everything sent out from their schedule and everything assigned, let's take a look at those notifications that we just sent into the system. The first one is that text that we sent to Aaron. So Aaron was assigned by Mike, and we provide some contact information. We see that dispatcher note about bringing their PPE. We provide information about the location. So what's the job name, job site, the address, which again, this is a clickable link that they would open up any map application that's on their smartphone or device. We also have the site supervisor and contact information and what time they're going to be starting. I see the notes from the assignment as well, so the flagger knows that they're going to be helping trucks turn around on that Route 4 that was going across Route 93. On the low bed driver side, you'll notice this notification looks a little bit different. So again, we style it and we provide content in context of what they need to be reviewing. So instead of just a list of assignments, we actually group their assignments by the different stops that they were scheduled to attend to. So in this case, the low bed driver sees their first stop is at 5:30 on the Route 101 project, where they're not dropping anything off, but they need to pick up that loader. Their second stop, they're expected to be there around 7:30. They're going to be dropping off the loader, but then also picking up the cat roller that's there. Lastly, there's a last stop here for 11:30. They're going back to the Hooksett yard to drop off that earth roller, and there's no more items to pick up. The last notification that we just sent to John is telling him where he needs to go, what time he needs to be there, and who he's supposed to work for. So he's picking up material, working under a specific tracking account, as well as those notes about bringing back loads of spoils and picking up piles. So circling back to the foreman in the field, now that all the notifications been sent out and the schedule has been finalized, the foreman can kind of bring this back full circle by using B2W Track and the schedule information that we just put on to our schedule. So let's follow again how this foreman might utilize Track and schedule in combination with each other. So they can go see that that need's been filled and specifically what piece of equipment has been assigned to fill that need. And then when he goes to create a field log, he can click the new field log button and create from schedule. So from here, after choosing the date, he could pick which information from the schedule that he wants to utilize. So again, if he wants to copy information from his other field logs, he can, but if he wants to pull information such as jobs, tracking accounts, employees, equipment, and materials from schedule, he could just choose to copy all that information onto his field log. So by pre-populating the majority of his information, it actually makes filling out a field log quite simple. He just has to enter in his quantities as well as the hours for the employees and equipment that have worked on the job. So again, utilizing our B2W Track element in conjunction with B2W Schedule does lead to a lot of benefits and saving of data entry, since it's all within the same system and can be leveraged across different elements. So here we could see the field log, and they're also going to be entering in some downtime since they didn't reach their targeted quantity. Looks like they underran about 65 tons or cubic yards, sorry. And it looks like they lost some time due to rain. So they're just going to enter in some notes. Looks like it was a little bit damp for them to get started. So didn't quite hit their targeted amount, but that's the reason why. So again, that can be validated and then submitted back to the office for review. So back in the office, we have the project manager, and they're trying to keep track of all the stuff that's been assigned, all the field logs that are being submitted, so that they can make sure that production's being met and resources are being fully utilized. The first thing we'll take a look at is those targeted information. So again, the targets that we set within schedule or track, getting reported against in B2W track, we can kind of get a nice visual for how well that particular tracking account is going on this job. So for excavation, that crew, what crew size, the targeted quantity, and then how much they've actually installed. We could see based off from the estimated rate that we're actually trending a little bit lower than expected. So not exactly executing to how the job was estimated. But again, in line with how the project's being targeted, we're pretty close to how we expected the work to go. So maybe it was just estimated a little higher than we could actually go out and execute the work at. So again, comparing estimated versus scheduled or targeted against what's actually being done can provide some very valuable insight to your business. The other thing the project manager might want to look at is the resource utilization. So again, touching on the fact that we can look at B2W track reported hours onto our schedule, we can see when equipment is being under and overutilized. So again, equipment without hours that are assigned or equipment with hours that aren't assigned can help us start digging into questions as to what's happening with our resources out in the field versus how we think we're scheduling them back in the office. So just to recap what we went over today, we saw a system which allows you to capture the requirements needed to do the work out in the field. We saw a system that allows you to assign and notify information for various activities, from running a loader to moving a piece of equipment or delivering soils to a job. And again, that's all done through centralizing your data and by capturing all the operational information within one product. By streamlining communication, by utilizing notifications to communicate the changes that happen day to day within your schedule. To improve visibility by showing schedules in different formats depending on the end users and how they're looking to consume the information. And lastly, increasing collaboration by allowing users to build off data from the different stages of the workflow. So with that, if there are any questions, I'll look to address that. Let's see. Looks like we just had one question around the schedule setup aspect of it. So again, we touched on how users can utilize the different schedule configurations. So we touched on a flat list for equipment and crews. So again, that's all managed through our setup area. So I can set up various unlimited schedule configurations within the system, depending on how my business likes to review the data. So I'll just touch on that real quick. So here within setup, I can quickly create a new schedule. So say I'm looking to manage my rented equipment. I can call it rented equipment. I can tie it to a part of my business, so a different business unit. Resources, I can turn on which resources I want to see. So am I looking at resources, crews, locations, or customers, which again, I'll touch on that in a later webinar. But since I'm looking at rented equipment, I'll turn off employees. Maybe I still want to see those reported hours. And then I'll apply a filter that says equipment ownership type of rented. So again, very easy to configure and set up a schedule in this manner. And then again, it's available and accessible to whoever has permission to view that particular schedule setup type. So again, here's my rented equipment. Looks like I'm not using very much of it. See, what if we put rented equipment? Let's see, any other questions? Trying to read this one here. What if we rent equipment? Is there a way to input it? Yeah, so our equipment resources, essentially we have a centralized resource database that's shared across the different elements. So any employees and equipment that we want to manage. So I have that driver or that foreman, we enter it once and it's accessible throughout the different applications. And one of the properties of our equipment asset is its ownership type. So again, looking at the equipment asset itself, it has different properties, some specs, some files and attachments, the mobility type, which again ties into whether or not this thing needs to be moved by a low bed or if it can get there by itself. But again, to answer your question, it's a property within the equipment resource that you can set up, which again can be leveraged through the schedule application. All right, while we look for other questions to come in, I'm just going to skip to the next slide here to touch on our next webinar, which is going to be streamlining materials in the trucking workflows within B2W Schedule. That's coming up in July. So again, we'll touch on in greater detail the workflow of creating material orders and assigning trucks to those orders and doing the notification process. Lastly, if you don't have Schedule today and you're looking for more information about the product, please reach out to the sales department at the phone number or email shown on the screen. If you're an existing customer and you had questions about any of the functionality you saw today, you can reach out to the phone number and email also listed on the screen as well. All right, that looks to be it. So thank you again, everybody, for attending. And I look forward to talking to you all in future webinars. Have a great day.